Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about how you can create the flower center and creating your own flower center file using the Silhouette software. And so previously I created one for the Cricut, although the difference there is I actually don't have a Cricut machine. In the past, when those who purchased templates from me had a Silhouette Cameo, they were able to request the center cut files from me if they wanted to. But here's a way where you can create your own using the software if you have one of these machines. And I am able to actually show you what it looks like when it's cutting and when I take it off the mat, and also I'll show you what the flower center looks like and an example of what you can make with it. So to start off, this is the Silhouette software. This is version 3, I believe. And I do believe there is a version 4, but I am not using it. I tend to use the software updates very slowly. I actually like to work in older versions, and so this is version 3, and I believe it's a little bit different with version 4, but the whole basic idea is the same. And so to start off, this is an 8.5 by 11 mat that I have. You can increase it to 12 by 12 if that is what you're using, but for today's project I wanted to make a flower center piece that is 10.5 inches long or tall by 6 inches wide. And the first thing I do is I go over to the top right where the grid is, and I turn on the grid just by clicking show grid. So you notice that I have it set at 10. Normally it will be set at 4, where there is 4 lines per inch. So you have quarter inch grid. And normally when I'm making my flower centers, I actually use an 1/8 inch grid. So every little line that you see is an 1/8 of an inch spacing. And for this particular project, I'm actually going to go for 10. So 10 lines per inch. This is so that I make a sort of thinner cut between, so there's less spacing. There's less of a distance between spacing for the little cut lines, and I'm doing that so that I can show you what it looks like when you make a thinner cut, I suppose. In the past, all my flower centers, I believe, are an 1/8 of an inch, and so I'm just going to show what it looks like when it's less than that. So since I have my grid set up, now I can go over to the top left where I'm circling. I don't have that circle that goes around the cursor, so I'll just do this to show you where I am on the screen. But here it says draw a line. If you hover over it, I believe it says draw a line. And this is what you can use to draw the cut lines. So I'm going to zoom in, and I want a margin of about 3 of those squares. So, and I'm going to draw my first line, and I'm going to hit shift. When I hit shift, it doesn't allow me to go, it allows my line to be straight when I'm drawing it rather than, slightly off. It will let me make the line at 45 degrees or a straight 180. So I'm going to make that first line. I actually don't stay very precise when I'm making these files, just because it's hardly noticeable when I am actually cutting it and putting together flowers. So I'm not excuse me, I'm not very precise when I'm drawing these lines. But you can see I have about 3 squares on each side, and that is so that I have enough of a margin where I can glue the pieces together and roll them. You can do more or less if you'd like. And then the next thing I do is I make sure that I'm selecting I'm not drawing another line. And so I'm going to select that line, and then I'm going to hit copy and paste. So now I've copied and pasted another line here. Whoops. So I've copy and pasted another line, and then I'm going to move it into place. So you'll see that there are 2 lines along this grid, and they're lined up along next to each other. They may not be exactly equally distant from each other, but it's close enough. So I also did that again. So now I'm going to select all 3, and somewhere you could just go to Edit, Copy, and then Paste. Oh, that only gave me 1 line. But then also what you can do is you can go to Replicate, and then you can go to Duplicate below. So replicate is where I'm not sure what to describe it. It looks like a butterfly to me, but it's on top of the toolbar. You can click Duplicate below. Okay, let me redo that. So then it's Duplicate below, and then so you select all, and then hit duplicate below. And you'll see that it has duplicated the lines, but then it overlapped one of them. So I'm going to move that back down over here. And just move it into place. So now I have 6 lines, and I'm going to do that again where I duplicate below. And then now you can do that all the way through, except that what I like to do is I just like to select them all, and then I like to hit copy and paste, and then I move it into place. If I am off by just a little, I will redo it. And I want to do that. I want to do the same for the entire sheet. So after I get some of the lines going, and then I just, let's see, I want to make sure. Now I did say that I'm not very precise, but then I do like it lined up enough if I can see the line. So you'll see me fidget around with this. You really don't have to do that. And so if you see that each time I add lines, I copy the whole thing, and then I paste. And then I can just drag all those lines, and then adjust them. So you can see that that's much faster than laying each line one by one. So I'm going to select this entire grid here, and then copy and paste. I'll zoom in. You see for like lines like this one right here, it's slightly off, and that's what I meant by not exactly being precise, but close enough. I will just leave that one alone. Now I am sort of rushing a little bit for this tutorial. I mean, don't want it to be super long, but you don't need to be precise, but then also you want to avoid being sloppy, because overall that small length of measurement that it's off will affect it overall. But you'll see that I did copy and paste enough lines to get it to the very end. If I zoom out, you'll see I have 1 page of cut lines. So the next thing I'll do is go to cut settings. And one thing you want to make sure is that the cut lines are on. And this is what it looks like when the cut lines are off. I'll show you. When it says no cut, you won't have any red lines. So you'll see the lines, but they won't be bold red lines. So if I just wanted to cut edge, that's what it looks like, or just cut. That's what the lines should look like. Then I will select cardstock. I like to choose the glitter flocked pattern paper. Sometimes when it's cutting, it doesn't cut all the way through, so I like to cut this one because it is 65-pound cardstock that I'm using. And then I want to hit send to silhouette. And the next thing I'll do is I'll have the camera on the actual machine cutting it, so I'll do that next. So I had my silhouette cut out 2 of these strips. Again, it was the 6x10 piece. So I'm going to take it off the mat. And then I'm going to put my mat to the side. So I now have 2 of these sheets, and what I want to do, I just want to do a quick little center. So for the first one, what I want to do is I want to offset where I glue the 2 sides together by about 1/2 inch. So I'll add glue up to just about 1 inch from one side and glue that corner 1/2 inch in, or approximately 1/2 inch in. So because I offset it a little over 1/2 inch, maybe it's like 3/4 of an inch, on the other side it's also 3/4 of an inch. And here I just want to start it off by rolling it tightly, and then you get sort of a ball in the middle, and just keep rolling. Okay, so now you have that centerpiece there. Sometimes I like to keep this piece where there wasn't any overlap. Other times I don't. You can see that it's not sticking just right, so I'm going to add glue again. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. And then with the second piece, what I want to do is I want to fold it that the top, this side here, folds just up to that cut line that I have. So right to where that margin is, where there isn't a cut. So I don't want to fold it so that it's side to side or corner to corner. I want to fold it just before the cut lines end. And crease it. So you can see that, or I hope you can pick up that if it was corner to corner, it would be like this. I've done this in previous videos. I'm not sure if it's picking up well on the camera, but there is a small amount of space in which they do not overlap each other. And then I want to add glue to one side of it. Start with half, and then fold it so that it is corner to corner, and both sides meet up. So this would be as if I was folding it in half. Okay, and then you can see that there's a loop sort of there because I folded it the way that I did, hopefully. So then what I want to do is with the side where the loop is facing, there's two ways that I've done it. In videos in the past, I've had the loop curve outwards like that. Now I want to flip it the other way where the curve is upwards, if that makes any sense. It is going to be hard to talk about, but in this case I want the longest side to be facing down, and then the loops are on top. If you're making it along with me, I think you'll see it better. But essentially I want these to curve outwards, whereas before they would curve inwards together into the center. These I want to curve outwards. So I'm going to glue it to the center that I created. And just roll it all around. So that it looks like that. So you can see that these strips are actually sort of bending backwards and outwards rather inwards towards the center. And then you can just press them down a little bit. To me, it sort of looks like a sort of sunburst, I guess, with the center, the sun in the middle, and then the rays outwards. And so if you flipped it, if you glued it the opposite way that I had mentioned, these strips would just curve inwards towards this, and it'll just be a different type of center. But this was the one that I was going for. I think this one came off just a little bit. But there you go. This is another type of center.